What up, what up? Winbush here, and today I'm excited to show you guys how I use the combination of World Creator, Brushify, and Unreal Engine to create this. Now, I posted up some stills last night on my various social media channels, and a couple of you guys asked me to actually make a tutorial on this. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. So as I was saying, if you look at my Instagram, like I posted it up last night, it kind of looks like the Grand Canyon or Arizona, somewhere out in there in the desert area. I was just having some fun with the Brushify. It actually just went on Black Friday sale. So if you're watching this recently, there is a sale going on. Same with World Creator. Posted it up on my Twitter as well. So if you guys are interested in the sale that they have going on for World Creator right now, it's about 20% off until December 7th, 2020. And then for Brushify, if you go to the Unreal Engine Marketplace, these are the different ones that you could get. I believe I owned a couple of these already because Epic did give these out for free. As you guys know, Epic Games, every month, they'll give a variety of different things from the marketplace for free. So make sure you check back in the first week of every month to make sure you guys pick up those free items. But the ones that I picked up for this sale, I actually got the Natural Roads pack right here, and then the Country Roads pack right here. But I believe the ones that I already owned from when Epic gave it out was this one right here, the environment shaders. But let's jump right into Unreal Engine and get everything set up. So I have my Unreal Engine project browser opened up. What I'm going to do is actually make it a third person just because I like running around in the scenes. So I'm going to click next, and then for my project, I'm going to just name this tutorial, and then I'm going to turn on ray tracing and leave everything else the way that it is. And then I'm going to click create project. All right, cool. So I have my project open up. I'm gonna hit dismiss on the plugins here, and I'm just gonna hit play to make sure my Xbox controller is hooked up. There we go. Yeah, so it's working. So this is cool. I always like doing third person when I'm doing like world creations and stuff, just because I think it's cool being able to hook up your Xbox controller and actually run around your scene. And actually, if you want to see how you could change out the default character and put in your own character, make sure you go to my other tutorial. I'll put it up above and I'll link it down below. Show you how you can take your characters from Mixamo into Unreal Engine so you can play around as your own characters in here. But let me hit stop on this. And I'm actually going to drag this up a little bit from my content browser. Click on content, and I'm just going to make a new folder. So right click, make new folder. I'm just going to name this one level, because I'm just going to start off with a blank level. And then I'm going to open that up, right click again, click on level, new world is fine. So I'm going to actually double click on this, just hit save selected. Now we have up a blank scene. So the first thing that I want to do is I actually want to get my lighting situation hooked up and everything, which for my lighting, I'm going to use HDR backdrop. And if you're using a third person mode, it's actually, you're going to have to activate it in the plugins menu. Let me show you how to do that. So if I come over to settings, I'm going to come down to plugins and then click on built-in. And I'm just going to type in HDRI. Then I'm going to click enable. Then down below here, it's going to ask us if we want to restart. There's no other plugins that I think I'm going to need, so I'm just going to restart it now. And while I have this restarting, I'm actually going to open up the marketplace so I can start bringing in some of the stuff that I want to use inside of my scene here. So let me actually go over to my marketplace here. So I have my Epic Games launcher right here, and I'm down inside of my vault under library. And there's a few things that I want to bring over. So I actually want to bring over the amplified LUT pack. I'm going to add the project. I'm going to find the project that I have right here, tutorial, click add the project. This one's only like 26 megabytes, and this is a LUT pack. Again, this is something that Epic Games gave out before, but they do have some free ones in there as well. And so I'm going to come down a little bit as well. I think I'm going to add this one right here, the Brushify environment shader. So I'm going to go add the project, click on my tutorial, add the project. And I think this is the only one that I'm going to bring in. Actually, the other one they gave away free was the Arctic pack. That's right. So that's this one here. And then, like I said, I recently bought the Country Roads and I bought the Natural Roads. So I would definitely say watch this tutorial. And if you're convinced, I would definitely recommend these packs out to you guys. But it looks like that's everything that I want to bring in for this example. So I'm going to close this out. Then I'm going to come to my content browser, and I should have everything in here. So yeah, now I have a Brushify folder, and I have my amplified LUT pack. So what I'm going to do is come over to levels, double click on new world. Again, we have a blank scene in here. So I'm going to come over to lights, and then right here, HDR backdrop. I'm just going to drag this into my scene. And I'm going to come over here to location, and I'm going to click on this little yellow arrow that's going to reset everything to default. So I have it, you know, locked in at 000. And if I scroll this up in my scene, this is actually an HDR that we have on our scene now. So if I come down to my content folder and I right click, I'm going to make a new folder, and I'm just going to name this one HDRI, because I actually want to bring in one of my own that I created on my own. So let me look for where I have my images. So I'm going to use this one right here, this sky here. Let me open up this folder, come back to my Windows Explorer, just click and drag this into here. And there we go. Now I have my sky HDR in here. And if I double click on it, it's basically just a simple sky in here, nothing too crazy, but I didn't want anything with a ground plane in here, just so when I start, you know, bringing in the atmospheric fog and stuff like that, I can actually really nicely blend this in here. But what I want to do now is I'm going to come down, and for maximize texture size, I'm actually going to do 4096 and click enter. And after you do this, it's going to take maybe like a minute or two just to calculate everything, but don't worry, it's not frozen. Okay, so it looks like everything's good to go now. So I'm just going to click on save here. Then I'm going to exit this out. Then I'm going to make sure I have my HDR backdrop selected. And right here where it says cube map, I'm going to click and drag that into here. And there you go. Now I have my HDR inside of my backdrop here. And if I click on this little purple box here, I can actually drag this up a little bit, just to raise it up. You don't want to raise it up by the HDR. You want to make sure that you click on this projection center and raise it up like that. And then there we go. That looks pretty good there. So my next step from here is I'm going to come down to visual effects here and my place actors. And then I'm just going to, let me drag this out a little bit so we can see it. Right here where it says atmospheric fog, I'm going to click and drag this into here. And then again, I'm going to come over to my details panel, location, click the yellow arrow, make sure I center everything out. And then I'm going to come back over to my lights, and I'm going to bring in a directional light, and I'm just going to zero this out as well. And I'm going to make sure I make this movable. And actually, after we bring a directional light, I have a cool trick that I kind of figured out to be able to align this to the HDR so that the real sun in our HDR is actually going to look like it illuminates our scene. So if I come to directional light here, and I come to my search panel, and I'm just going to type in atmosphere. And actually it's going to do it, you know, it's going to come up right here. I just type Atmo, and the one I want right here is atmosphere / fog sunlight. I want to click this on, and what this is going to do is actually going to show the disk inside of our directional light so that I can actually be able to see it in the scene here and align it up. So if I turn off my HDR backdrop and let me look up in the scene, there we go. So I can see my sunlight right there. So I'm going to click on directional light. And I'm actually going to click on this right here for rotate, so I could use the sundial to rotate my sun. Then I'm going to turn my HDR back on, and I want to line this up in the center a little bit so I know exactly where I can line my sun up. So somewhere right there, I want to bring that disk right here. So I'm just going to drag this over. There you go. So I just want to try to line it up as great as possible. So we want to have it around that area right there. So it doesn't have to be exact, but this just helps out with your lighting situation and everything. So it looks like I got it in a pretty decent area there. So that looks like that's going to work out there. And next thing I want to do from here is come over to world settings. I want to come right here where it says light mask and this down arrow. I want to force no computed light. I want to click this on. And then I'm just going to click OK. And then from here, I'm going to come over to visual effects. And I want to bring in post-process volume, bring that in direct center as well. And then I'm going to type in UMB, and I'm going to click on this infinite extent. And this is making sure that everything that's in our post-process volume is going to affect the entire scene. So I'm going to X this out inside of my search bar. And then I'm going to come down and just do some stuff so that we don't get the auto exposure. So whenever we're working on our scene, the light is just going to be absolute. So if I scroll down here, I want to come down to exposure, and where it says metering mode, I'm going to actually click on exposure basic, exposure compensate. I'm going to make 0. And then what I like to do from here is come down to here where it says min and max brightness, turn both of these on, and I'm going to make both of these 1. And so now whenever we move around in our scene, we're not going to get that auto exposure thing that we don't like to use when we're doing out cinematics and things. And so now I have my lighting situation All good. I'm going to wait to bring my exponential height fog in until I have my actual landscape in here. So the next step from here is actually, let's jump into World Creator, build out a landscape real quick, and then bring that into Unreal. So let me open up World Creator here. All right, cool. So I have World Creator opened up, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this 4096 like so. And I'm just going to make a quick landscape. I'm not going to do anything too crazy in here. So if I come over to filters and then add layer, let's come down to this filters right here and click add as well. And then let's say I want to make like a canyon. Let's make an eroded canyon. So I'm going to click add, and then let's come over to sediment. You know, let's add that. So you can see how quickly we could just kind of add these filters and make some really cool landscapes. Maybe you want to make rocky hills. And if I come down here, the navigation is pretty much just how it is inside of Unreal. So I don't really like the Rocky Mountains, maybe some plateaus. Let's see, something like that can be cool. So I just want to look inside of my scene here. So yeah, I mean, something like that can be cool. Maybe if I want to do dunes, let's go with canyons. I'm not going to spend too much time in here, but you can spend all day in here just kind of making some really cool scenes. Something like this might actually work. This might be cool here. I'm going to bring down my general strength just a little bit like so. So I'm just going to rock with this one right here just for time's sake. So this is going to be my landscape, and this entire thing we can run around. It makes like a huge playground. It's pretty cool. So I'm going to click add and close. And then from here, I'm going to come over to export. And then under my select format, I'm just going to do a PNG 16. And then for a game engine, I'm going to select Unreal and then export. Then let me find a place where I can save this. So I have an image folder, and I'm gonna just name this one height map underscore tutorial and click on save. And this shouldn't take too long here. It's only 4K. Should just take a moment here to export out. Okay, cool. Looks like we're exported everything out. So I'm actually just gonna make that smaller. And now I'm back in Unreal. So what I want to do is come under modes and then come here under landscapes. And what I want to do is I'm going to import the file that we just made in World Creator. So once I'm in this landscape panel, I want to click on import from file. And then I'm actually going to look for the height map that I just exported. So it's this one right here, height map underscore tutorials. Click on open. And you can see that we get this wireframe in here. You know, it's not really looking how we want it yet. This is kind of just showing us, you know, the wireframe of what it's going to be. So from here, I want to come down, and for my section size, I want to use 255 quads. And then I'm going to hit fit the data just in case, but it should have brought everything in already. And then here under materials, before we import it, this is where we want to add our Brushify materials in here. So if I come down to content and then come over to Brushify, come down to materials, look under landscapes. And right here, we'll see a black material. It says MI underscore landscape. So I'm going to click and drag this one into this little green box here. And now we're ready to import everything. So I'm going to click import from here. And there we go. We should have our landscape imported. And as you can see, it's all black and it's looking kind of weird right now. And that's because, let me come over to my HDR backdrop, double click. You can see that it's really tiny compared to the rest of our scene here. So actually, let me make my camera speed a little bit faster so I can zoom out a little bit. So you can see how large our terrain is in here and how small our HDR is. So under HDR backdrop, I'm just going to scroll up here, and right here where it says size, I'm actually going to add 2 more zeros. See how that looks. Let me scroll out a little bit more. Actually, that might have been a little bit too much. So let me drop a 0. Okay, so around 6,000 looks like it's going to be fine here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to move it down in my scene. So let me click on modes, come over to select, and then I'm just going to drag this down until it's not clipping our scene anymore. And let me make this a little bit bigger, maybe around 7,000. And I might need to readjust my sun. We'll check here in a minute. So now let me double click on landscape. There we go. Now I'm inside the center of my scene here. Then I just want to make sure that my sun is still, my directional light is still aligned with this here. So I'm going to turn off my HDR. It looks like it moved over just a tad bit. So I'm going to click on rotate here. There we go. So that looks like it's lined up about the right size there. So now if I move around my scene, we see we have like this black shiny mesh and everything in here. And that's because we need to add our materials from Brushify in here, which will automatically give us some really cool textures. So I'm going to select modes again, come down to landscape, and then I'm going to click on paint here. And if you look over here on the left hand side, we'll see we have some layers here, and these will kind of correlate with the Brushify packs that you get. And so let's do grass for right now. So I'm going to click on grass, and then we're going to click this top one right here, this grass underscore layer info. Click on this, and this should automatically populate our scene here. So there we go. Now we have some really cool grass materials in here and everything, and we can actually get really close to the top of our mountain here. And we can see we actually have grass in here as well, which is really cool. So let me just come into my scene here. And I'm not going to get too much into how Brushify works. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you could do with it. So I would suggest looking at Joe Garth's channel. I'll link that down below as well. But let me actually click on play in here. Actually, before we do that, let me add some exponential height fog just so we can make this look a little bit more realistic. So I'm going to come over to my visual effects panel, come down here, exponential height fog, drag this in. Then I'm just going to zero this out. And then right here under fog density, just going to move this down a little bit. And so this is going to come to your taste. So I'm going to come down to my fog color here. What I like to do is actually color pick in the scene, maybe my HDR up here, just to make it blend a little bit better. So I'm going to click OK there. And that's just a quick and dirty way of how you could bring in, you know, like the exponential height fog, give it some of that fog distance in there, make it look really cool. So from here, I'm actually going to make sure I have my Xbox controller turned on, click on my scene, and there we go. Now I have my character running around in my scene here. We have the nice grass. We have that. The cool thing about Brushify is it actually takes the height data and it will automatically blend some of these layers in here. And I know you can actually use like mega scans and stuff like that with Brushify as well. So maybe that's something I'll cover, but Joe also covers that on his tutorial section in his YouTube channel. But I thought this is really cool, just, you know, like the really large landscapes that we can make inside of Unreal with Real Creator, Brushify, and just a little imagination. So, I mean, this doesn't even look, you know, as good as you can make it look. This was just quick and easy, showing you guys how you could bring everything together in your scene. And so I would definitely suggest this plugin for anybody that's out there. I'd definitely at least buy, you know, that environment pack for Brushify so you could at least get some basic stuff like this going in your scenes. So hopefully this helped you guys out. I know a couple of you guys been hitting me up asking me how I made some of those scenes. Of course, the scenes that I made last night, I put a little bit more effort into. I just wanted to kind of give you guys something that you could quickly get in, use Real Creator, use Unreal, and use Brushify to make some really cool environments. So if this did help you out, make sure you leave me a comment down below or on any of my social media channels. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And until next time, stay fresh, keep creating, and I'll catch you in the next video. I'll see you soon. Take care.